2, 1.
Hi, it's February 9th, 2022. We are at the Eagle LA interviewing Charlie Matula and Hunter Fox on behalf of the Silver Lake History Collective. My name is Michael Masterson. I'll be doing the interview, and we have Coy Pham on camera, and Mark Simon is also here with us. So, thank you guys for doing this in the first place.
Sure.
Really appreciate that. We'd like to start these out by kind of finding out a little bit about the two of you, where you came from, how you ended up in LA, you know, kind of what your history is. So where were you born, Charlie? What's your...
Well, I was actually born in Texas, a little town out of Austin, but we moved here when I was 5. So I basically grew up here.
Mm-hmm. What part of LA?
Arcadia,
Okay.
El Monte, Temple City, kind of San Bernardino, I guess.
Where do you, yeah.
No, that's not San
That's
Bernardino.
LA.
Yeah.
It's still LA.
Yeah.
And where do you live now?
I live in Hollywood.
Okay.
I've lived here for the last 30 plus years.
Hunter, what about you?
I grew up outside of D.C., Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And between there and most of my family's from the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. And I had a hankering since I was a little kid to always come to Los Angeles. So right after I turned 21, I packed up, jumped on a plane and shacked up in Los Angeles. And yeah, I was here for almost a year, and I was up in San Francisco for 8 years. And then I've been back in LA ever since for the last 22 years.
Oh, wow. And where did you end up in LA?
I'm in Hollywood as well.
Okay, great. So you both in Hollywood. So let's talk about what brought you to Silver Lake initially in terms of the bar, and what brought you to the Eagle?
Well, I've been in this business for over 30 years. I started out in 1990 at the Spike, back in the day as a bartender, and then worked my way up to DJ, manager. And the original Eagle, LA, was still open back then. It was in West Hollywood, on Santa Monica, and Fairfax, across from where the Whole Foods is now. And it was there for 15 years. The owner had died, and they got caught up in a lot of back taxing legal issues from him passing. And so they were never able to recover, so it closed in '95. I went on to work at Rafters after that, and this was the Gauntlet 2 at the time. I was friends with one of the bartenders, and they were looking for a manager. And so he knew my history, and he said, hey, you gotta meet this guy named Charlie. Brought me in to meet the boss, and the next day I was hired as the manager as Gauntlet 2. And then I was here for 5 years as the manager, and he decided to retire and made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and here we are, all these years later.
And was that boss Bob Lindsley?
No, Bob was actually not an owner. He was the manager of the Gauntlet 2. It was Ken Erickson who had bought the bar. I want to say he bought it in '86, perhaps. He was a retired electrical engineer out of San Francisco and decided he was going to take his nest egg and open a bar. And, did a great job, but he just, finally had enough one day. I said, that's it. Packed up, and next thing I know, I was buying the bar. And it had always been my goal to reopen the Eagle when it closed, because I was there when it closed, and I was always afraid someone would beat me to it.
So how long were you at the Gauntlet 2 as the manager before you bought the bar and changed the name?
5 years.
Okay, so still Gauntlet 2 for 5 years.
Yeah, I came here in 2000, and then in 2005 was when we made the deal.
Now, there are a lot of Eagles all over the United States. Is there any kind of connection between those Eagles and the Eagle LA?
No, there's no franchise. There's no, anything like that. They just all kind of like-minded. Leather Levi fetish. Some do it better than others. But every major city has an Eagle, and that's why I wanted to bring it back. Because LA, and that's why I remember I said I was afraid someone was going to beat me to it, because it just seemed like a really good thing to do. And the Gauntlet, it had its run. It was 22 years when I bought it, and it kind of, like, the Fault Line was the reigning bar of the day, and the Gauntlet it run its course, and it just seemed like the most logical, sensible thing to do, and it's been fantastic. Yeah.
Do either of you know anything about the bars that were here previous to Gauntlet 2, like the Shed or the Outcast, I think?
Yeah.
Do you remember those bars? Or?
I do. It was originally called the Shed. You can't see this on camera, but over here is a back pool kind of patio area, which was once just a metal tin shed, and it was a washer machine repair place. And that was the shed where they had all the machines and all the mechanics. And that's how it got its name. And then it evolved from that to the Outcast, which was notoriously known for its after hours and food. And the interior, the walls were painted a bright orange. And then there was these long tube fluorescent light fixtures up on the ceiling, if you can imagine, after hours drunk coming into a place, bright orange with those lights. It was absolutely hideous. But they had leather banquettes all around the room, and the small bar area was a kitchen, and the windows on the stage were the pass-throughs for the food. And it had a long run. It was quite the place back in those days. And then it became Gauntlet 2 after that for 22 years, and now it's been the Eagle for the last going on 16 years.
So you've kind of continued the sort of Levi leather fetish tradition of the previous bars that were here, I guess, or were they all oriented that way?
No, they weren't all that way, but there was definitely a big presence. And funny little side note, as far as carrying on the leather torch, when we bought the bar, we operated as Gauntlet 2 for a year, and then the Eagle was a very tight-lipped thing. Nobody knew, and how we were able to keep it quiet, I still don't know. But everyone knew something was coming, and so the day we wanted to change it to the Eagle was April 1st, 2006, and I couldn't do it on April 1st, April Fool's Day, so we did it April 2nd, but not being able to pass up an awesome April Fool's joke. We announced and made flyers on this place called Club Cupcake. And it was a very pink and bubbly poster, had Clay Aiken, and it said where that icky Gauntlet 2 used to be, Silver Lake's newest, sassiest boy bar. And we put that in all the rags, flyers everywhere around town. People went ballistic. They're like, this has been a leather tradition for over 22 years. How dare you? Who do you think you are? And on that opening night, we had all the bartenders dressed in glittery shirts and hair gel to here and wrap around clear sunglasses. We had MJ, we had Rage, we had all the big players show up to see who this new dance bar. And of course, the next day I was just April Fool's. And a lot of people thought it was the most brilliant joke ever.
That's pretty good.
There were a few that didn't appreciate it, so remove me from your mailing list. But yeah.
Well, aside from the cupcake incident, what are the other kind of most popular themes or nights you've had over the years that you do here?
Well, we've had quite a few actually. Since it's been the Eagle, I would actually say the most popular has probably been Meat Rack, but it's just been the longest running as well. Mm-hmm. Bluff has been going for a long time. We also do a Thursday night. When it was the Gauntlet, it ran for 5 years, which was a wet underwear contest. Then when we turned into the Eagle, we did it for a little while, and then we changed it into a bare chest contest. Now we're back to wet underwear. We brought that back. That's popular and fun on Thursdays. Our Sunday beer bust has been kind of great for many years, which is, the Sunday beer bust is the quintessential gay drinking afternoon. It's been going on for years. That's always fun.
And could you describe Meat Rack?
Oh, sure. Meat Rack is Meat Rack is kind of when we have go-go dancers, we bring in DJs from all over the country. Some of them even from out of the country, and we have go-go dancers, but they're not your typical lean, shaved. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but we just chose to do more of kind of cater to the men that kind of come to this area. So a lot of them are older, a lot of them are over 50. They're just buff, hairy. They have beards. They have long hair. So it's just a more hyper masculine, I guess, type of go-go dancer kind of thing that we do. Social, a lot of people come just to see the men and meet people who come here for that event.
Well, the Sunday Beer Bust, you used to have competition from, say, the Fault Line, which is now closed. So there really are there. So looking back at all the other bars in the area that have closed, like Woody's and MJ's and going Cuffs and going back and back and back. I mean, you're one of the last bars standing, so to speak, in this area that caters to sort of a mostly gay clientele, right?
Yeah.
One of the few. I mean, there's still a few out there, but yeah, it's not as many as it used to be. Clearly.
I mean, we've got Akbar, us. I think are the only. I don't know what else is left in Silver Lake.
That may well be it at this point.
Yeah.
Curious about the relationship with the bar and the police, historically and currently. Have you had issues in the past being harassed by the LAPD?
We have not.
You have not.
We have not. There's been a long history, and it's not just for Eagle LA. There's been a long history for many of the bars in Silver Lake with LAPD starting in the 60s. And I mean, I don't really know if you can even blame it on the LAPD. It was the fact that the city actually had anti-gay laws. And and the law was something like it was illegal for two known homosexuals to occupy a public space, which was considered lewd and indecent conduct. So Vice would go into a place which is called the Black Cat, which is right up the street, which is now a restaurant, and they would even come in here. We were fortunate enough to actually know some of the members of the Satyrs Motorcycle Club who used to come here in those days when there would be anywhere from 7 to 15 Vice officers, and all someone had to do in the club was touch another person, and they would arrest everybody. And pretty much that's what happened at the Black Cat, which was they were tired of being harassed, they were tired of being arrested, and then they just couldn't take it anymore. And the Black Cat riots took place, which was well before Stonewall. It just wasn't as documented, or the media wasn't the same then. Nowadays, the LAPD has taken huge strides in their communication, in their relationships with gay bars. Not only internally, they have gay divisions, they hire lots of gay officers, they do that intentionally. They have awareness training for officers. We produce a street festival, which was basically kind of to preserve our gay history here in Silver Lake, called the Off Sunset Festival. And the first year they did it, I believe they brought in 90 some officers just to get them exposed to what they could encounter, what they can encounter. And without incident, the entire event went off. But it was really about training them. Our relationship, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, in the time that I've been here, which is 17 years, 16 years, I think maybe we've actually called the police twice that we've had to. And if anyone, there's always someone who's drunk or unhappy or pissed off at their boyfriend, and they'll go outside and make a phone call. And we've had some things like that where people are like, oh, I just got stabbed. And of course, nothing ever happens. But we have a great relationship with them. The LAPD is very, they're very conscious about venues that constantly have trouble or incident. And as far as I understand, any officer I've ever talked to, we are so under the radar. They drive by us and they don't even know we exist because we just don't have those kind of issues. And I think one of those come from good management, which is you work with your staff, you work with your doormen, and you treat people when they come through the door that they're your responsibility. And so if you can maintain a sense of the crowd and order, and they see that, they're fine. That's really what they look for. It's a lot of what they look for.
A safe place to have fun.
And it is, and it creates a safe place to have fun. And look, not that we don't have an incident. People spat, people get in arguments, people get too intoxicated at times, and we have to put them in an Uber. Back then, we used to have to put them in a cab. Yeah.
Have there been any particularly outrageous incidents or funny things or kind of just, I mean, over-the-top things that have happened, maybe at an event or something like that?
You'd have to turn the camera off in order for me to tell you.
I was just about to say, that has to be G-rated. But
Yeah.
One of my only regrets, I tell people all this time, you know, I don't regret, you know, things in life, but my only regret is not documenting the just when you thought you seen it all moments, because I think it would make a great coffee book. It's just so outrageous and so unbelievable that, like, wow, that just happened. Like, nothing could possibly top that. And then next week it went, well, yep, there it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the list is endless.
That's great. Going back to the Off Sunset, that kind of, you started that after Sunset Junction Street Fair ended, right?
After Sunset Junction ended, another producer came in and did the Jubilee for 2 years.
Right, and then there's
yeah.
the Street Fest too.
Oh, right, but Street Fest went on before. Street Fest was going on at the same time as Sunset Junction.
Was it? I don't,
Yeah, they were held different times a year. Yeah, so Sunset Junction was usually held in the fall, and Street Fest, you're right, Street Fest started in 2006, and which was a leather street festival produced by Gannon Gray and Charlie. And that ended in 2008. I think they did 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
So maybe it was 05 it started. And then after Sunset Junction, someone came in and started the Jubilee. They did that for 2 years. The footprint
That was
was
more of a straight.
well, that was more of a that encompassed all of Silver
The
Lake.
hipster crowd.
It was much more of a Silver Lake itself kind of event. And then as the bars started dropping off around Silver Lake and business started closing and the area started to become gentrified, we talked and we really started Off Sunset to preserve our history and keep the area aware of who we are and what started here a long time ago. The gay rights movement, the large part of it started in California with the Black Cat riots. There are many other things that took place that are documented well before that, but that was kind of our catalyst for the state.
As well as celebrating and honoring Silver Lake for what it is, the artists, the musicians, you know, the hipsters. You know, we really wanted to preserve that as well.
And a very significant, it's where the Mattachine Society began.
Yes.
In Silver Lake
Yeah.
back in 1950.
Yeah. Also,
Not far from here.
the Sunset Junction was started by the artists. Some of them, the beatniks, they call themselves, the neighborhood, the parents, and the gangs. And from what I remember, and I could be wrong on I believe there were 2 gangs that were kind of prominent in this area that caused a lot of the problems. And basically, members of the neighborhood council, I don't know if it was the actual council itself, was involved, but they got everybody together, and they said, "Look, we want everyone to do this thing," and so the gays and the artists and anybody they could get a booth.
Local
Local community. You could get a booth and you could sell your wares. And they got permits to sell alcohol, and then someone got permits to have bands, and they actually used the gang members as security.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really smart move, and it really did change the social dynamic of this area. It still took a long time for stuff to change. I mean, I was here in the 90s, and I got pistol whipped once and mugged once just walking down the street.
Near here?
Same space, same place, both times. Lucille and Sunset. And both times I ran into the Crest Diner. The one guy actually chased me inside with the gun. Back to Off Sunset. When we started to do the Off Sunset, it's not that we wanted to be like a gay-only event. It's just that with the closure of a lot of the gay businesses and the bars, we wanted to do something that is founded in our history, where everyone is still invited. It's a 21 and over event because the laws of the city have changed, where you have to have beer gardens and food gardens, and so our compromise is that we fence off the entire area. We make it a 21 and over event. Everyone can walk down the street with a cocktail, a beer, or a soda, or a water, and there are vendors from all over the city, and you can buy stuff, you can listen to bands all day long. Some are local, sometimes we try to bring in a bigger name. Usually that is local, for kind of a headliner, if you will. And that's been our goal. And unfortunately, COVID has the timing of the event, which is usually the end of March. So we're now going into our third year where it still has to be postponed because of COVID.
Well, speaking of COVID, I wanted to ask you, I mean, I know there was a lot of concern, at least among people I know, that Eagle might not reopen, and maybe, you know, because a lot of businesses,
Very
we
valid
lost so
concern.
many of them. So how did you guys pivot, and are you able to come back better than ever?
You know, the community. You know, we have shelves full of trophies and awards of all of the efforts we've done for the community. And, sorry. You know, the community rallied. And they
Did you
came
do a
big.
GoFundMe campaign?
We did, which I've never been a fan of. I never really believed in those that much, but, you know, we did it. Someone said that I should really do this, and the response was just overwhelming.
I can't tell you the amount of people that were like, you know, don't let your pride get in the way.
Yeah.
We woke up many days wondering if we would be able to come back.
Yeah. That's what got us through, and
Yeah.
as well as the grants and the things that everyone else was applying for. You know, we got those, and that those helped too. So everything collectively, but the community was just.
And we got hit hard personally from the beginning of the pandemic. One of our best friends died literally weeks before the closure. Our next door neighbor's son died. It was very challenging. As I call it swapping seats on the Titanic. We're not special. This was a global thing. And just the amount of loss that was going on all around all of us. You know, we all have our own personal stories with COVID. But it definitely changed me.
Well, we were closed for 15 months. We didn't have the space or driveway or parking lot to expand out to like most restaurants and other people did.
Do you remember 2 weeks after the closure, we were standing around talking about what are we going to do for the next 10 days?
Yeah. When it actually happened, we were just like, okay, well, let's we'll do some spring cleaning and do a few repairs. Yeah, what are we going to do for the next 2 weeks? And 15 months later. So thank you to all those out there that support us. Thank you.
The community really did save us. I know he does as well. It's a privilege to do what we do. It really is, and we believe that. And when it comes to our staff, we're not really ones to stand over them and say, do this. It's more, what do you need? You know, we give them the guidelines of what we want and how we want things to go. But we really believe that we're here to support them. And we feel the same way with the community, whether it's we give people a space to do fundraisers, which he and Vince, we do a lot of. And with no recognition to them because we don't need it. It's really for the organizations and the people that need the money and a space to generate that. Or even just a space to come and have fun. You know, some of these teams, we have kickball, volleyball, dodgeball, rugby, softball. And sometimes they just want to play a game and they want to go someplace with all their teammates and have a beer.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think it speaks well to your management that you have a lot of longevity in your staff too. People tend to stick around a while out here. Is that right?
Yeah.
You have to
It's
put
really
it
hard to
out.
get a job.
Yeah, first off, someone come up there, they're like, I really want to work here. I'm like, would you have a contract on someone?
That was hard too, because prior to the shutdown, some of our staff had been here as long as we were here, like for 15 years. Or on average, they were anywhere from 4 to 6 years, which is unheard of in bar years. They just didn't leave, and being shut down for 15 months, people have to get on with their lives and make a living for themselves, like anyone else. So we came back about 50%.
I will never forget the day.
I felt like our family broke up.
Yeah, that we were sitting and Charlie and I were talking, and And he just started crying. And I'm like, I'm trying to console my husband. Like, what's going on? Like, just talk to me. Just another employee had said, look, I'm not going to be coming back. I think it had been 4 years or more since we had hired anyone. And the amount of people that were moving on, or that were just, it's not that they didn't want to come back, they didn't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But for fear. They figured they should do something entirely different. And then he's just said, he's like, look, we don't have kids. We're never going to have kids. Our staff, we do our best to honor them and give them what they need in their life, and to work here and anything else.
Well, they're like kids.
And they started dropping off, and he said, this pandemic is tearing our family apart, and it was very, very difficult. It broke me.
But silver linings is like the crew we have now is just as stellar and just as special, and the bonds that we have are lifetime, and so it's great.
Well, looking into the future, the neighborhood's changed a lot. You have a spiffy hotel up the street now, and an Air One, and and where there used to be bathhouses and spas, you have all these kinds of stuff. So, as the area is gentrified, where do you see the Eagle going forward?
Right here.
We're here.
Right where we are. We have a strong foundation. We have a great community. Sorry if you, and I see us right here. We're still part of the fabric.
Yeah, it just being shut down for 15 months. You question whether it's ever going to come back, if at all, and never in a million years had imagined it would come back the way it has, and as strong as it has. And yeah, we're not going anywhere.
I like shiny. I like new. And I think it's great for this area. I think it's great for Silver Lake.
Everything evolves.
As long as we respect one another. I know that the folks from the hotel are just great. I haven't dealt with Air One yet, as far as business to business. Only been in there just to get stuff. But as far as the hotel goes, they're just like, we're so glad to be here. We're so glad you're there. The same with the restaurant across the street, the Bowery Bungalow. It was sad to see the Thai restaurant go. That was a choice that they had to make and close, and now there's another great place. So it's we evolve and change, and I think as long as we can welcome each other and stay neighbors and realize that we're all part of this, we have a really good chance of keeping our community alive. Yeah, well, it's hard to watch the gay businesses close. When someone asked me today, not even right before this interview, who's from the East Coast, and they asked what Silver Lake is like, and why are the gay bars that are here now? And I explained to them that long before there was West Hollywood, there was Silver Lake, and this was here first. And not that I'm not one of those that be like we had to walk uphill both ways. I'm really grateful for the fact that young gay men and women that are coming up behind us hopefully won't have the same struggles that we did, or have to fight the same fights. Hopefully they'll be a little easier. Hopefully there'll be people that are more educated, so that their path is clearer. And
Well, I can tell you the community is glad that Eagle is going to be a part of us for a while.
Yeah.
We're really happy with that. So, I think we've covered. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share with us?
I do, and I'm not usually well with interviews, so there's a few things I just wanted to say, backtrack a little bit. And people want to acknowledge, when we bought the bar, we being, Vince Quattrochi, who's my business partner since day one. Hunter was the manager for 3-4 years in the beginning. Six, and then went on to culinary dreams. She's a chef and worked in many restaurants, and we had our own restaurant for a little bit. But Vince Quattrochi, he and I are the best partners in this journey, because he works in the office and does all the administrative stuff. I work out here and make the bar go and all the events, and he doesn't want to do what I do, and I don't want to do what he does. So it's a perfect marriage in that regard. He and I ended up getting married, and we've been together for 17 years. And then the other person I want to give a shout out, his name is John Piano. He's our graphics guy and does all our posters. A lot of people love our posters. A lot of people have tried to copy our posters, which were all inspired through John. He's been here since day one, and he is literally the artistic face of the Eagle, and he deserves that recognition.
I have a quick question, Silver Lake related. What segment of the bar's clientele do you think actually comes from Silver Lake? And any sense of that? How much is Silver Lake?
Oh my gosh, it's huge.
It's huge still.
It's huge still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because there's not as many, how do I put this? We might not have as many gay businesses, storefronts that are gay owned and operated in Silver Lake as we used to. We definitely don't have the amount of bars and restaurants that are gay owned and operated in Silver Lake as we used to. But the residents, it's only, I think it's kind of fluctuated as most areas do, but I think the gay population in Silver Lake is still very high, it's still very strong. I remember what year was it? We were reading Forbes or whatever it was. We were reading in a paper, and Forbes 2005 had just deemed Silver Lake the hippest place in America to live, which everyone in Silver Lake was instantly like, now we're the unhippest place in America to live.
I remember, yeah.
Everyone was so upset, you know?
Exactly, I know, we're that way. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you on behalf of the Silver Lake History Collective
Thank
and
you.
Silver Lake itself for all that you've done and given to the community. We really appreciate you taking the time today. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. This is important.
We'll
Thank you.
be back.
All right.
Take care.
Tonight.